to week 4 of the West Virginia Chamber's Legislative Update. I'm Kaylin Jorge, Chief Communications, Development, and Policy Officer, and I'm joined by Brian Dayton. He is the VP of Policy and Advocacy for the Chamber, and it has been another action-packed week, but really the word of the week this week is childcare. You may have seen several news stories that the Chamber has been featured in. Of course, it's something that we have always felt was a workforce and economic development issue, and we have been staunch advocates in this space. So let's start off with TriShare.
So yes, TriShare is a pilot program in West Virginia right now, currently funded by a grant from the Appalachian Regional Commission. But at the basic core of what TriShare is, the employer pays a third of the cost, the employee pays a third of the cost, and in the case of the pilot program, the Appalachian Regional Commission is paying a third of the costs. So we've been in talks with legislators on both the Senate and the House to expand this program statewide. We have seen enormous success in the 8 counties where TriShare is located. It's only a few months old, but already 21 employers have enrolled in it. Over 100 children are currently having child care due to TriShare in West Virginia right now. Another additional, I think it was about 63 children, I believe we heard today, are in the enrollment process for child care. So it is a really exciting thing to really help control the costs. What we do know is that the average cost of child care is $800 a month per child. That is very unaffordable for many families. If you can get that cost down to $250 to $300, now you can go ahead and make it where it's worth working, rather than having a situation where your paycheck basically goes in the pocket and immediately back out to a child care facility. So the conversations have been enormously positive right now on increasing the funding for TriShare and taking it statewide.
Yeah, and one thing I think that's important to note is that TriShare isn't new. It's been rolled out in other states, yet West Virginia is outpacing the other states as far as the rollout and the employees on board. Now, can you explain kind of thread the needle between TriShare and childcare workforce being it really is an economic development issue?
Yeah, absolutely. And so one of the things that we consistently hear from the Chamber's members, over 75% of them say that lack of childcare is a major issue when it comes to attracting and retaining a workforce. So that's one of the things that we look at as TriShare is it helps the employer provide another opportunity for employees, an attraction tool or retention tool for those employees so that they are incentivized to work and at the same time can go ahead and help them with childcare. Again, what can happen in so many instances is if you have 2-3 children needing childcare, then one spouse is essentially working just to pay the childcare bill. Well, when that situation is happening, what we see far too often is one of the spouses makes the decision to stay home with the children. It's also incredibly difficult for single parent homes. If you have single family homes right now or one parent, how do they go to work if they can't find childcare or they can't afford childcare? So these are just some of the real reasons that it's so important to address this issue head on.
Yeah, and speaking of incentives in the childcare space, now we can move on to HB 4067.
Yes.
This is an attraction, a retention tool, and something that could really benefit the people who are taking care of our children day in and day out.
So House Bill 4067 had its first stage on Tuesday evening. The snow was coming down pretty hard, but the House Health Services Committee met. What this bill does is it makes sure that anyone who works at a child care facility, as introduced for more than 20 hours a week, is eligible for their children to have state subsidy for child care regardless of their income level. So we have a lot of child care workers right now who are already on, their children already receive state subsidy to go to child care. But in situations where you have a potential child care worker whose spouse makes more money than what would make them eligible for state subsidy, they're put in the exact same situation. If they want their children to go to that child care facility and work there, they're basically making money at the facility to immediately turn back around and pay for their child to get one of those child care slots. Conversely, there are some facilities who have gone ahead and given them child care for free, but that's enormously costly to the facilities, the child care providers, as they're already basically operating on a bare bones margin. So the purpose here is to try to help attract more people to work at a child care facility. We hear from a lot of providers right now, they have the space, they have the rooms that they could actually, they're licensed to hold more children than they currently do, but they can't hold those children because they don't have the workers to be there. So that is squarely what this bill was aimed at. the conversation and how self-services was very, very popular. It's, I think, has a lot of promise with that bill.
Yeah. And of course, childcare, it's something that we've spearheaded here at the chamber, but we're not the only ones who are working for more affordable, accessible childcare. There's really a growing
Absolutely.
coalition. So what is the message that lawmakers are receiving from our group and from other groups when it comes to childcare and what they can do this session?
Well, I think the message is really that childcare is critically important to improving our workforce participation. It's critically important to attracting new economic development to West Virginia, getting those jobs here. If you're able to go ahead and have somebody return to the workforce because they now have access to childcare, you're going to be getting taxes off that person. They're going to be making money. They're going out and spending things. There's sales tax involved. A lot of that money will come back in through economic activity. You will, from sheer economic activity, you will more than recoup the costs of what the state would pay out to help with childcare.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for breaking it down.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, this is week 4. This is the 4th video that we've done. We've been
Yep.
tracking bills along the way. Can you give us some updates of some other bills that we've been tracking that are moving through?
Sure. We're always watching for the potential for new causes of action that can really go ahead and make it easier to sue employers. When those things come up, we try to get right on top of it and make sure that those things don't happen to the employer community. We're watching energy issues. What are some things that we can do to go ahead and help incentivize more development in West Virginia, but also to make sure that we don't do things that will raise electricity costs. We're watching environmental issues. So it's really a large, we deal with a lot of issues here at the chamber. It's probably the quickest way to break it down. And so unemployment compensation, the taxable wage base, that's another issue that we're trying to address to give a tax break to all employers, but especially those small businesses that pay a much larger percentage of of that tax on their employees' salaries. So we're engaged in a number of issues. It's every day, it feels like 1,000 fly balls in the air.
Mm-hmm. Now this week, everyone here at the chamber was mobilized and we all made our way to the Capitol. And it was actually for a pretty fun reason. Of course, it was Marshall and W Day. Can you tell us a little bit about the impact that those days have?
So I think those are some of the more exciting days at the Capitol. On Tuesday, the upper rotunda was a sea of green. On Wednesday, it was a sea of blue and gold. But really a few years ago, WVU and Marshall began really working together and what they created was a Reception Universities United. And so it takes place on Tuesday night, but it's really an opportunity to showcase higher education and the powerful economic engine that it is for West Virginia. So it's an exciting day. We have so many friends at both of those universities, and to see them at the Capitol. So we had the whole team over there going around and just visiting everyone.
Yeah, well, thank you, and thanks Marshall and WU. We will be back here for week 5 of our legislative update. You can catch us on wvchamber.com or on our YouTube page.